I got my boy David Dole here. This is an interesting story. He is talking about Newsmax host Eric Bolling, who's a former Fox News host. And Bolling is going to take a shot at Labor Day. That's right. He's very mad that people get a day off from work. He would rather force you back into your shitty cubicle. So let's see his argument and some of David's response here, and we'll vibe with it as we go.
Labor Day became a holiday as a payoff to the organized crime / labor unions.
Newsmax host Eric Bolling lost his mind over the fact that people got a day off of work because of Labor Day. He didn't, though, but that's how we got this amazing segment. So I'm going to show you this and break it down. And you know what? I got a bit of a defense of Eric Bolling here at the end.
Don't do it, David. Don't do it. You don't got to hand it to Eric Bolling under any circumstance.
You will see. But here is his incredible segment, just tearing into Labor Day.
Well, it's Labor Day. Yay! Well, not so fast. I mean...
Labor Day equals anarchy, it says on the screen. Oh, that's great.
I get it. Some of us get the day off. Not all of us, though. But, hey, if I'm not on the beach, I know where I'd rather be than right here putting a show together for you tonight. But yay, and not so fast, because this day, Labor Day, became a holiday as a payoff to the organized crime / labor unions.
Organized crime / labor unions. Oh, man. That's glorious. Look, is there a history of some labor unions being involved with organized crime? Yeah, that's true. But does that mean that, like, they are one and the same? They are synonymous? Wherever you see a labor union, there's, you know, some dark underbelly of organized crime and selling drugs and pimping out women and whatever. No, of course not. These guys are so silly.
They wanted it to be in the month of May at first, and May 1st, actually, also known as May Day, a communist holiday celebrated in much of Europe. A communist holiday celebrating communism, socialism, statism as their day off. That right there shows you exactly what they represent. Communism, socialism, labor unionizing to wield power over employees, employers.
What? Did you catch that? He says to wield power over employers. Yet, it's not to wield power over employees. In fact, it is the employees collectively bargaining together against the employer because there is a massive power imbalance where the employer has all of the power and they are effectively the dictator of your job, the dictator of your workplace. And so its attempt to get closer to democratizing that workplace and giving people some more power to even out the situation so that you get fair wages, you get time off. You're not, abused. You're not taken advantage of by the owner class. That's what it's about. But I love that slip up. Or I don't even know if that was a slip up. Maybe he did that on purpose to say, oh yeah, unions are bad for the employees. I mean the employers. Definitely not for the employees, that's for sure. There's been a number of studies that have shown that if you're in a union, you make higher wages and get better benefits. The so-called right-to-work states, which are really right-to-work for less states, the anti-union states, the wages are lower, the benefits are worse. That's a fact.
I mean, just look at the roots of May Day, also known as Labor Day. In 1889, May 1st was designated May Day, a day in support of workers by an international federation of socialist groups and trade unions in commemoration of the Haymarket Affair, a violent confrontation that took place on May 4th, 1886 in Chicago. But here in America, labor unions, who operated much like socialism, wanted their day of recognition, but in an effort to hide the obvious payoff to big labor, the powers that be, or were, decided to hide the corrupt union extortion by making the day off from work the first day in September, not May 1st, a work holiday now known as Labor Day. So yeah, Tucker took the day off to celebrate the labor unions, their corrupt history and their mafia crime family origins, and yeah,
that's hilarious. Does he have a feud with Tucker Carlson that we're unaware of? That's awesome.
Replaying some stale old interviews, but I thought we should be here for you with a brand new show.
All right, so I'm going to get to a bit of history, and I'm also going to show you maybe a different position from Eric Bolling a few years ago when he was working at Fox News. But before I get there, look, in his defense, if he truly hates as he says, I believe he hates unions, he hates communists, he hates socialists, then he's working Labor Day. He's being principled by not taking the day off and actually working Labor Day.
I'm sure it was Newsmax that set the schedule. Eric Bolling wasn't like, please, oh please, can I work on Labor Day? I don't buy that. I mean, yeah, fair enough. Like, you're anti-Labor Day and you worked on Labor Day. But I'm pro-Labor Day and I worked on Labor Day. Why? Because my job isn't a traditional job. Like, I really enjoy what I do. So, but I wouldn't force other people or want other people to work on Labor Day if they don't enjoy their job. So, does that mean I'm a hypocrite because I worked on Labor Day, but, I'm pro people having the day off on Labor Day? Again, no, because I like my job.
While Tucker Carlson also hates unions, hates communists, hates socialists, yet he took the day off. So in Eric Bolling's defense, he is somebody who actually is, putting his money where his mouth is. That said, I'm not sure it was really his decision to work that day. I feel like it was more of a Newsmax corporate decision to work that day.
Right, exactly.
But regardless, he worked on Labor Day while, hating on those that brought him Labor Day. So I guess good on him. But also, look, a lot of the history he brings up here is not wrong. He's correctly identifying that unions, communists, and socialists brought the world a Labor Day, in some places May Day.
Yeah, that's true, and it's kind of funny because it's like, you think you're attacking unions, communists, socialists, etc., but really by making this argument, I think a lot of normal people are going to hear it and go, well, that's sort of based. So on this front, thank you to the unions, communists, and socialists. So I know he means it as an attack, but it really comes across to normal people like, oh, that's kind of cool. This is, hey, thank you. I appreciate that. Maybe I should look more into this unions thing and this socialist thing.
So this is not wrong. This is correct. Yet, just the weird thing is he's framing it in a way as you should be angry about this. You should be pissed off at the unions, at the communists, at the socialists that they gave you this day off. Not to mention, when I get to more of the history here, weekends, child labor laws, workplace safety laws. Like, to get angry about this, what's the audience here? Who's the audience for Newsmax?
Yeah. First of all, nobody. I don't think Newsmax has good numbers at all. And there is no second of all. It's just, first of all, nobody is the audience for this. Maybe some hardcore right-wing partisans would, cheer on what Bolling is saying here, but it's not many, right? Like, because right-wingers like days off from work, too.
I have to imagine it's mostly retirees that, I guess, don't recognize that they benefited from these things as well when they were working. At this point, don't care at all because they're retired. I don't know, but, like, how can you possibly vibe with this idea that you should be hating on Labor Day, hating on a day off work, when Americans are some of the most worked people in the world? And I'll get to a bit on that in a second as well. But first here, look, this graphic, just hilarious. Labor Day equals anarchy.
Yeah, and for anybody just listening to this and not watching it, it says, hating a day off to own the libs. That's exactly what's going on here.
Jason Campbell writes here, hating a day off to own the libs. And, it's also worth mentioning, there's two moments in this segment, there's several. But two stood out to me. At one point, he says, labor unionizing to wield power over employers. As if he...
David caught it, too. He caught that same spot I caught.
Caught himself saying employees when he meant to say employers. Because, of course, unions are not to wield power over employees, over the workers. They're to give workers a voice and wield power over employers. Employers who have all the power in a workplace unless there is a union. Again, who is this message for? Like, all this anger, all this resentment towards Labor Day, it's either targeted at those that don't know anything, which I have to imagine is a large portion of the Newsmax audience, but also targeted just at capital owners, at shitty bosses. So it's just this bizarre idea that working people to the bone is somehow beneficial to anyone. I mean, there's a lot of, I don't have this in this segment, but maybe I should have included it. There's a lot of these trials now for 4-day work weeks, and they are all working out. I mean,
that is such a great point. It's true, yeah. That's we've talked about that as well. There's been a number of studies that have come out where there's been trial runs in 4-day work weeks, and the productivity either stays the same or goes up. So you work fewer hours and you get either the same out of it or you get more out of it. And then on top of that, you get the benefit of, like, you know, the happiness going up, the anxiety going down. So it's sort of a win all around.
Look up 4-day work week result, and you will see that not even just the employees, of course, are happy, but even the employers are happy. They're seeing their workers actually be more productive because they have that extra day off. They feel like they are respected in the workplace in a way that they weren't respected before. They feel more agency over their own lives. They're able to spend more time with their families, you know, do their own thing. So when you actually do what is best for workers, it also benefits those at the top of these companies. Now, in some cases, maybe that isn't true. Like Amazon, I think if you work people to the bone, you know, sending packages out same day, then that is going to ultimately benefit those at the top of the company. But in some cases, in a lot of cases,
Amazon literally has been open about the fact that they try to turn over workers quickly. Hire workers young, get some spring chickens, work them to the bone, run them into the ground, turn them over, bring in new people, do the same thing.
4-day work weeks are incredibly beneficial for both the employee and the employer. But let me show you this. So I've shown this graph in other videos as well, but this is from the Economic Policy Institute. As union membership declines, income inequality increases. So this is union.
Look at that chart. That is wild. By the way, I can add to this as well. During the time when we had the strongest unions in this country, it was also called the Golden Age of Economic Expansion. You also had the higher marginal tax rates on the wealthy. There were so many positive impacts of this. Here's one fact on income inequality that is going to absolutely blow your mind. We've talked about this before, but leading up to the subprime mortgage crisis and Great Recession in 2008, the top 1% had over 20%, made over 20% of the national income. I think the exact number was 23%. Okay? What was that back during the golden age of economic expansion? It was only 9%. So the top 1% only made about 9% of the national income. So when things got way out of whack and the top 1% made way more of the national income and also had way more of the wealth, the national wealth, everything was so out of whack, and that, helped lead to the downfall and the crash. Because as Henry Ford used to say, you want workers who can afford to buy your cars. And at a certain point, when there's so much wealth and income inequality, you don't have, the population can't buy the goods that the so-called captains of industry are providing. And so it's bad for everybody. So what you see, and this tracks throughout American history, is that when you have strong unions, when you have higher marginal tax rates on the wealthy, you have a much healthier economy in general. You have a strong, thriving middle class.
Membership and share of income going to the top 10% from 1917 to 2019, showing you that even if you are not in a union, the existence of unions, of higher union membership, benefits all workers because it sets a standard for what is acceptable in the workplace in terms of wages, in terms of workplace safety. So when you have more unions, everybody benefits. And you see that here. And this goes to 2019. In the past couple of years, we've seen more of a resurgence in terms of the push towards unionization. You saw that with Amazon. You're seeing that with Starbucks. There's over 250, I think now, Starbucks locations that have voted to unionize. Other places as well. I think Chipotle had their first union vote as well. So you're seeing a greater push for that now. And it'll be, I want to see where this graph goes in the future if that trend continues. Because I guarantee you, if that increase in union membership continues, you're going to see the share of the income going to the top 10% decline. But that will, again, take a few years for something like that to take effect, assuming membership keeps up and this momentum continues. But a little more here on the history of how people got Labor Day, weekends, and the rest. So from Time Magazine, bumper stickers aren't known for being the most trustworthy source of historical fact, but the one that proclaims that weekends are brought to you by the labor movement gets it exactly right. If anything, it doesn't go far enough. So in the 1930s, or only in the 1930s, did the tide turn for workers with Franklin D. Roosevelt in the White House, allies in Congress, and the first female cabinet member in Secretary of Labor Frances Perkins. A series of reforms were implemented. In 1938, Congress passed the Fair Labor Standards Act that established the 8-hour day and 5-day week for wage workers. But don't solely thank the politicians. As FDR once told Union civil rights leader A. Philip Randolph, he agreed with the labor movement's ideas, but he needed the activists to go out and make me do it.
All that is true. Another interesting historical fact for you is that during this debate at the time, we were very close to getting a 4-day work week. Congress almost passed a 4-day work week, and FDR would have signed it during the New Deal era. But they changed that at the last minute and cut a different deal. Isn't that incredible? Again, the little facts that people don't know, but, totally changed the course of history. So I wish they had done that back then. But, there should be a movement to try to do that moving forward. That'd be wonderful.
So, look, there's a lot more history on this, but all history showcases that none of this would have happened if it weren't for unions, communists, and socialist groups getting together and pushing for these labor laws. So this is a lesson for today as well. You're not going to see, especially politicians now that are completely bought by massive corporations and the wealthy, they're not going to do anything for the working class unless they feel like they need to do it. So,
I mean, honestly, Biden's move on student loan debt, I think this explains that, right? He doesn't want to do that. This is counter to his ideology his entire time as an elected official. He is a neoliberal corporate Democrat. Like, he's not our ally, but the political moment kind of forced his hand for him to do it. Because, as Crystal points out, this started with Occupy Wall Street, this idea of canceling student loan debt. It was mocked at the time, even by, people like John Oliver were mocking it in, 2016. You had Jill Stein pick it up in the Green Party at the time. And then you had Bernie take it to the Democratic debate stage and hammer it in 2016 and in 2020. And this idea went from a fringe idea viewed as crazy. And when you had activists pick it up and run with it, and then you had it slowly become mainstream, then we got to a point in Biden's presidency where he's sitting there. His numbers are plummeting with young people. He's getting absolutely obliterated with young people. And he's sitting around, he's going, I'm facing political annihilation and doom and embarrassment, both in the midterms and in my next presidential run, if I don't do something for these people. And then what do we get? We got $10,000 of student loan debt reduction for people who make $125,000 a year or less. We got $20,000 of reduction for Pell Grant recipients. And then we got a cap of how much you pay for your student loans at 5% of your monthly income, which is a phenomenal provision as well, right? So this is all because of the pressure. This is all because we took this idea and made it mainstream through activism and through Jill Stein picking it up and then Bernie picking it up. So, case in point, this proves that point right there.
This is, again, shows you why it's important to have a strong labor movement. Last piece here. So compared to workers in other industrialized countries, American workers toil far more hours and receive far fewer days off. The World Economic Forum reports that U.S. workers on average labor 1,783 hours a year compared to 1,363 hours for German or 1,470 hours for French workers. According to the American Time Use Survey, in 2018, men with full-time jobs labored 8.99 hours a day and women 8.56 hours, though most women also perform several hours a day of unpaid household labor.
Now, also, we are the only developed nation that doesn't have paid sick leave by law, doesn't have paid vacation time by law, doesn't have paid maternity leave by law. I don't think Americans fully grasp just how screwed you get with our economy. I don't think Americans understand that, we are sorely lacking on this front. And at the very least, we can catch up to the rest of the modernized world and get some paid time off, get some paid vacation time, get some paid maternity leave. But it's a shame. It's not really discussed very often. But it should be. This is another one of those issues that, should be, activists should hammer away at it. We should slowly make it mainstream, and then eventually it becomes the position where you force the hands of these corrupt politicians.
So Americans, some of the most overworked in the developed world, and it's obvious as to why. Massive corporations, as I said, and the wealthy largely control policy. Last bit here. Eric Bolling wasn't always a hater of labor. or of Labor Day, I should say. Here he is back in 2015 while he worked for Fox News saying, "Morning, everybody. Have a fabtastic Sunday and enjoy the continuation of your Labor Day weekend." I'm going to guess Eric Bolling took that Monday off.
There it is. All right, so a shout out to David Dole here of the Rational National. This was a hilarious and informative segment. And Eric Bolling is one funny dude. I mean, he thought that was like a slam dunk of a segment. It's the communists and the socialists and the anarchists and the trade unionists who brought us Labor Day. Isn't that gross? To which everybody responds, damn, now I kind of like anarchists and socialists and communists and trade unionists. So, massive fail on Eric Bolling's part.